Today, Precarious plays Stardew Valley! Dad, what do parsnips taste like?
Sort of sweet. Kind of like carrots, but they're delicious. Just people don't cook with them very often because they're kind of fibrous.
See, I'm used to
Kind of
turnips.
tangy.
I'm used to turnips, which is like the Harvest Moon standby.
Yeah.
And I don't very much like that they did parsnips instead of turnips.
Aw.
And there it is. That's my list of grievances with this game. Everything else was perfect.
Okay.
In fact, we can stop here. Episode done. No, episode done.
Okay.
Episode done.
Well, it's 6:50 a.m. We gotta think of something else to say.
No, come back later. Episode done.
It's not fair. When I did it, it was more funny.
No, when you did it, it was horribly disruptive and interrupted the flow of whatever fucking game we were playing. It wasn't Stardew Valley, so it doesn't matter anymore.
Nothing matters anymore.
Not in the face of Stardew Valley. Okay,
So why is that?
because you know I'm a fan of Harvest Moon, right?
Yeah.
Some people are fans of Harvest Moon. Here, you know what? Let's start there. So there are people on the internet that I like that are playing this game. A lot of people are playing this game. Like 500,000 people are playing this game. Last I checked, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little weird for me because growing up, whenever I would recommend Harvest Moon to people, the best I could hope for was sort of like passive, sort of soft dismissal. People would be like, oh, that sounds nice, and then they'd never try it.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it was outright ridicule.
Mm-hmm.
Or something close to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, on the one hand, I'm happy that this game is doing well. I'm happy that a spiritual successor to Harvest Moon is doing well. But I want to know why. What is it about Stardew Valley that has sold like 450-some thousand copies? But Harvest Moon, I think, is still sort of a niche title, right? It's in there in a cranny somewhere.
Yeah, it always was when I was younger.
And I have some ideas, but I need fresh eyes.
Well, I have the freshest. Please don't take them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to for science because once all of the images, once all of the Stardew Valley, make sure you don't over-till. Because once you plant the seeds, most of the tilled spots that don't have stuff in them will sort of disappear overnight. Once the images have been processed by your ocular organs, I'll need to inspect them more thoroughly to see like the exact angle at which you were looking at things. You understand? It's for science.
You know, for science. I mean, if it's for science.
Yes, it's absolutely for science. So I have some ideas about why this game is doing so well. One thing that I've noticed, yeah, that's one thing I wanted to talk about. There are people on the internet, people that I like, and make sure you move all the way to the south. Yeah, otherwise you wind up putting it at your feet sometime.
Oh, I see.
There are people on the internet that I like. Like, what's an example? Ross O'Donovan?
Mm-hmm.
In Commander.
I would say we like him.
Ross O'Donovan, and what is it? Is it his beautiful wife, Holly?
His amazing wife, Holly.
No, he
says the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's like my beautiful wife, Holly.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he does. One thing I noticed is he introduced the game whenever they started playing it as this really sedate, really laid-back experience, and he's not the only one, right?
Mm-hmm,
Most people are approaching this game like it's just this nice, gentle, very easygoing experience, and for like a rural life sim, for like a farming game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hesitate to call it that because it's more than just a farming game. But for this type of game, it is like balls to the walls, crazy fast.
Mm-hmm.
It is not quite. It's not quite as action-packed as the king of fast-paced farming games, Rune Factory 4, with its amazing action farming action, in which you could pick up stacks of vegetables in a 9-high column and then pitch them at the shipping bin.
Yeah,
it is a real thing that you could actually do.
That's awesome.
And there was a satisfying like dunking noise, and the only way it could have been improved is if randomly, like probably like once every couple of 100 times, so that way it wouldn't get old, if confetti shot out and there was like a little like, yay!
Hey, Dr. Harvey.
So it really is very, very fast. The days just blow by. Like I think it's like if you were to leave the game idle from when your character wakes up in the morning to when they're forced to go at sleep at night, I believe it's like 14 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy fast. The game has very smartly streamlined a couple of important aspects that, in my mind, are usually like game killers. It's the stuff that makes me stop playing a Harvest Moon title. Animals, for example. By the time you have like a full company of like 8 cows and 8 chickens, or 8 cows and 12 chickens, or whatever, depending on the game you're playing, going into a barn and brushing all of them, milking all of them, shearing all of them, collecting all of the eggs, picking up all of the chickens and then putting them back down again, which is the equivalent of brushing a chicken. Mm-hmm. That's how you.
You just pick them all up.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but it's effectively. I think it's supposed to represent like cuddling them or petting them. But that's how you build affection with chickens. And Harvest Moon, most often, it takes an eternity, and worst of all, in many Harvest Moon games, time is frozen when you're inside, and it makes the real-world time spent on any given day in-game like double or triple, and that's pretty conservative, right? And it's all because time freezes when you're indoors, and this game very smartly does not do that.
Yeah.
Like whenever you're talking to someone, you'll notice up there in the corner that time is paused. There are a handful of actions which I really appreciate. Time pause, and I think in the moment when you're...
talk to this kid?
I don't know. Yeah, because he doesn't have the
bow.
icon. I think you may be able to do it at range, even if you can talk to someone. Yeah. So see how the icon switches for her.
Well, why does she still have it?
You can talk to some people multiple times. Yeah. So whenever you like in the moment when you're harvesting a plant in this game, I believe it pauses, and that's very rewarding because it allows you to have really massive fields of things, and you're not overly penalized for it.
Yeah, that's really hard getting everything harvested.
Yeah. But I wanted you to play this game sooner rather than later, because it is not an early access title. Which I appreciate. It is done enough that the developer, who's just a single person, I believe.
Is this a library?
Yes, this is a library and an emptied museum. Yeah. So make sure you pay close attention to his text, because I believe he gives you sort of like an overarching quest, which is important. And I'm gonna keep talking about this. So I wanted you to play this game now rather than later, because while it's not early access, it still is being developed by a single, seemingly very passionate, very, very smart person. A person that I think knows the series very well.
Like the whole series.
It feels like it. Like I'd like to, I think it Concerned Ape? Concerned Ape. Bail if I got it wrong. Put the right name in. Thank you. But I'd like to talk to Concerned Ape about Magical Melody. Like if he's played that one. Because if not, I mean, I know that like Story of Seasons and a few of the other games have had like the sort of free placement of barns and plots and stuff. But I feel like that started with Magical Melody, and I'd like to know how he feels about that game, because it's... I'll have to talk about Magical Melody some other time, because I could go on about
There's
that game
a lot
for
there.
Yeah. Long story short, and I'll elaborate some other time. Magical Melody was mechanically one of the best in the series, and it just had a few critical presentation flaws. And the opening was really poor. It had a really, really rough opening, especially because like the character models were a little funny. And as long as you're zoomed out at normal gameplay height, the character models are fine, but the opening sequence zooms in really, really way too close, and you can see just how doofy the character models are.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a little beanie body. It's not great. So.
Oh, I've already met her. What is this glorious place?
I'm pretty sure it's a cathedral to Yaba. Yeah. Here, check the altar. Yeah, Yoba. So that is the. Interestingly, it's here, and I've played the game a little bit.
Oh yeah.
You know, a little bit. A few hours, couple seasons, 3.5 years, and over 100 hours, whatever.
A little bit.
But I sort of expected that whenever you got married, I thought that you'd be married in the chapel of Yoba. At least the person I got married to, that is not the case. So it has not had like a strong presence in the game so far. I do know that this is a world where Yoba is like a force that can act upon the world. So it's not just like a normal like our world religion substitute, because there's a ring of Yoba that occasionally prevents you from being wounded when you would otherwise be wounded. So at least Yoba is a force that can sort of protect people from harm. So that's something.
So how do I know when to like eat and sleep?
Hold on, leave that grass for a reason I'll explain some other time.
I will trust in you. I will trust in Yoba.
Yes, trust in Yoba. Yoba bless thee, my child. Boom, right in your face. Yoba's blessings, 1,000 of them.
Thank you.
So what were you asking?
How do I know when to sleep and eat and stuff?
Well, this is something that's really cool about the game. Whenever night falls and it starts to get dark, like it is right now, it gets dark.
Like it's actually like.
Oh no, that's the hoe, not the axe.
Yeah, I know that now.
That's okay. So that was and still is one of my bigger concerns with the game. Whenever I first started playing, even I was like, the pick looks a little too similar to the scythe, the hoe looks a little too similar to an axe. Just enough that...
Boy, it is getting dark.
Yeah, it gets dark, so I would actually recommend going to sleep.
It gets dark like it does out in the country for reals. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think probably by the time it gets to about 10 or 11, you won't be able to see anything.
I have to ask this log a question.
What was its answer?
Oh, this is so cool. All right, bedtime.
Yes, bedtime.
Bedtime. Will you tell me stories? I bet this will tell me stories.
The TV box will tell you the stories.
Oh, number one source for number one and only.
It's going to rain tomorrow. Okay.
Cool. Do I have to water my plants when it rains?
No.
Yes. Night.
Okay, and there's so much about this game that I wanna do things a little differently, because I didn't realize until we were considering recording this. I think I have a lot to say about this style of game.
Clearly.